Cultivate your chi and help it with your activity. Cultivate your jing and help your heart and your well-being. Cultivate your shen, your spirit, and let it flow. Good evening and welcome to The Way of Conscious Mindfulness, a weekly podcast and YouTube show discussing spirituality and science, balancing health and well-being with mind, body and spirit, with a Daoist twist. The Dao means the way, the path, the balance. Now, we are not your normal talk show, surprise, surprise. Each week we have either a subject or a guest. This week we have a very beautiful guest, and our aim is to have an open discussion and help us all find new skills, new ways, new techniques to help balance our own personal Dao. Now, this week I'm on my own again at the moment. I'm flying solo, but Robbie could appear any minute. Michelle Infinity may also appear. You never quite know what's going to happen on the show. So the wonderful guest I have today is Judi Lynch. Judi Lynch is internationally known as a psychic medium, healing energy channel, and counselor, teacher, and also author. So, good evening, Judi. How are you doing?
Good evening. I'm doing great, and I want to thank you for inviting me to come on the show with you.
I love your tone. You got a very cool radio voice. If you're not a radio presenter, you should be. You have a very cool radio voice, I must say. You're more than welcome. So I'm going to kick it off. As I'm the only one here, I'm going to kick it off as I do, but I'm going to start it. So my infamous question is, so as this is the way of Judi Lynch, so Judi, what is your Tao? What is the way of Judi Lynch?
Okay. The best way that I can explain that would be, and I think you said the word earlier, a balance. And that's what I work with people on, balancing their lifestyle so that every day, everything that they, mind, body, spirit, that includes their diet, their meditation, how they connect with their guides. So when I begin and I'm doing a reading with someone, what the most wonderful thing is for me is when I have information to share that they can validate with me, and then I can work with them on energy and meditation so that they are able to empower themselves in healing themselves and their bodies, and the way that their mind creates that healing. And I think my way, I guess you could say, is that I love when that happens, that empowerment that goes beyond that reading validation or that loved one coming in, which is so wonderful when you get a name or you get a situation, because that helps that very person connect. They're never the same after that. So I guess you could say, and I work a lot with people on their health, and intuitively what I gather about what they may be having in their diet, and that they may not know, people know they're drinking soda, I get those kind of messages for people. So it's really body, mind, and spirit, I would say. I'll get a message, well, they really need to get out in nature and walk. And they may say, well, I've been saying I was going to do that for the last 6 months. Those kinds of things that empower a person to know that, they can intuit through the universal spirit these type of things that will enrich their lives and help their spiritual connections.
No, that's really cool. There's this interesting thing I find in life, in our society, is that when we're kids, you know, when we're kids and we have voices, or you know, we play with imaginary people, you know, your parents sort of accept that as, oh yeah, you know, that's because when you're a child. But when you grow up, oh no, you mustn't have those voices anymore. You mustn't listen to those. And it's that crazy, you know, it's that crazy thing of, you know, like, or like, you know, you see movies and whatnot talking about having these ideas, but if you mention that it's come from a voice, or this voice said this, oh, suddenly you're crazy. And it's this, you know, for me, it's the fear mongering of our society that's created this thing of, oh, this is okay then, but it's not okay now, and it's okay this way, but it's not okay that way. But then, you know, it's a very, very so it's great to have somebody like yourself who can. The word that keeps coming to my mind over and over again is validation. You know, you validate. Is that not only sort of? Is that right in saying? Is that you know, you find, or I think you sort of said it, was that, you know, they've been thinking about something, but you're sort of that additional voice, that more physical voice that will say, yes, you should listen to that, you should focus on that. Does that make sense?
Yes, exactly. That's a lot of what this is about. It's not about fortune telling, because when a person is really empowered spiritually, then they can learn to manifest things out of options, right? And so that validation, that's the word right there. Validation.
Yeah, I think again, I think I don't know, it's just like the way you know, your information comes across is that, you know, people say psychics or mediums, because of the psychic medium, and the way you're saying it is that it's not about, you know, oh, you know, this sort of reading, or I'm going to, you know, tell you about the future. It is actually about, look, your loved ones, there's entities all around you, and they're talking to you all the time. There's a Daoist saying that everyone and everything is your Sifu, and when you delve into that deeper, is that you know, everything is a learning tool, but also quite literally everything is talking to you in its vibratory way. That you know, the rocks talk to you, the grass talks to you, the birds talk, you know, so very much in the animalistic shamanism side of like American Indians, you know, they talk about the spirit animals talking to you. But in Daoist shamanism, everything talks to you, the rocks, the sun, the moon, everything has a spirit, and you know, and your, you know, the ancient ones, your past ancestors, they're all there trying to talk to you, but it's like talking to a brick wall, and you're the brick wall. Well, not you, but some of our clients are the brick wall, and it's opening, you know, I find it, you know, really, really cool, because the way it's coming across with you as well is that back to that word again, validation. Is allowing people to actually see, look, yeah, you've been thinking that, look, and all I'm not saying anything you don't already know. So that's very cool. So now, how, because this intrigues me, because I do, I come from an East, even though I'm half Irish, half Russian, born in England, but I've spent a lot of my time in the East, in China, and I learned from Chinese teachers. And there are two main, there's a couple, but there are two main healing ways in Daoist philosophy. You have the barefoot doctor, who's very much like the doctor, but uses different, uses Chinese medicine, uses acupressure, uses 5-element cooking, and teaches the person to teach themselves, help themselves. In the end, they heal them at first, but their eventual goal is to heal themselves. Now, the dragon dog shaman does the same sort of thing, but what I found interesting is that the shaman does similar to you know, like uses the guides and uses, you know, the energies around that person or the spirits around that person, and
Yes.
but also says, look, you need to do this and you need to do that. So for you, how does the energy healing, how does that work?
Okay. When I do an energy healing, we want to concentrate on the chakras in the body, the light, the vibration, all of those things we're working on. So when I want to help someone connect, I call in the guides and ascended masters and loved ones, usually through a short reading, and I can actually feel that energy coming into the room and even surrounding this person. I will step back and let them take over. And what happens a lot of times is I will go and sit down and the person will think that I'm standing behind them with my hands on them and I'm on the other side of the room. And then I say, see how you really don't need me. You just needed me to show you this. And now you can take this home with you. So that's what I do.
And that's very awesome. So yeah, so in essence, you don't get into the way of the healing itself. Your ego or your
Right.
personality doesn't actually get in the way of the healing. The healing is done through you channeling or accessing the energies into that room, the entities, and then it's them who, and that person themselves, who are actually facilitating their own healing.
Yes, absolutely.
That's pretty
absolutely
cool. That is pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. And what I have found out in a lot of cases, when somebody's very open and they've done a lot of meditating in their own way, and even maybe they've gone to some spiritual gathering recently, it almost happens instantly for them. It just, and their hands will come up off the table and they will say that they just feel all of this love and bliss. And then they concentrate on the areas where they want the energy to go. So yeah.
It's funny. You're I say this often because I seem to pick good guests, but I say often as I would say you're Western Daoist. You know, is the principles you're using. You know, the Daoist simply meaning the way to balance the path, but you're helping others by you're just accessing it, and then it's up to, you know, it's helping them figure out how easy it really is, and that's really really cool. That's really cool. So I mean, so what sort of what's the most challenging clients you've had, or challenging situations that you've had while you've been doing this?
That's a really good question. And, you know, I felt that you were going to ask me that. Seriously. And I will tell you, in the last few years, I think the challenge has been talking to so many, mostly mothers and parents, who have lost young adults, children, to the opioid crisis here in the United States, and those type of things. You know, it's become such an epidemic that I've talked to, I can't count how many people now I've talked to in grief counseling, or done readings for, or mediumship for. And that's tough. That's really the toughest thing to help, or to try and help people through, you know, when they've lost their child.
Yeah.
So I would have to,
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I mean, I suppose is it in one way sort of trying to comfort them in the essence of they exist in another plane, they are still there, they, you know, is this unknown? Well, we have most people have this lack of knowledge in what is beyond. You know, we don't remember. There's an ancient an ancient saying that says part of the ascension, part of the great ascension that's supposed to happen, the golden age, the year of the age of Aquarius, when it kicks in, one of the things that's supposed to change is said to be this: the veil is lifted, meaning that people will at least remember that they have lived again and again, and you know, is that death is only a mere passing. So I mean, for somebody like me, obviously I'm aware of that, I know of that, I'm not afraid of, there is no fear for me when it comes to death, because it is literally just the shedding of this skin and moving to a next. But so I can see, you know, there will obviously be great comfort, you know, is trying to you know, with loved ones, you know, allowing them to see, look, it's not over, it's not the end, you know, they are moving on eventually, but they, you know, they still exist, their consciousness still exists, and yeah, I can see that would be a great, you know, a great comfort. I'd hope it'd be a great comfort. Okay.
Yes.
Cool. Right, so okay, so with the counselling and the healing, obviously these are all just interlinked. They are just very much, you know, sort of sliding into each other. Is that correct? Or, you know, as in, so, you know, if you're Daoistically, if you're healing, you're counselling. If you're counselling, you're healing.
Yeah. Right.
So again, I mean, yeah. So have you found that? So because I sort of hinted or mentioned like the age of Aquarius and the golden age that's meant to be coming. Have you found that more people are coming through your doors in the last few years? You know, is there an increase? Have things changed in any way for you?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And especially here in the South, in the last few years, I've been teaching class online. I've had more clients than ever, from every religion, every age group. You know, I have parents that bring their teenagers here, and then I have clients who are in their 80s. Yes, I would have to say that there's so much opening up with people and them wanting to connect and learn more. And it's very encouraging that way. People are wanting to, as they say, learn how to meditate at home. And so, you know, when I counsel with somebody, usually it's going to take a couple of hours at least if we do a reading. And then we talk about meditating. We talk about all those things, how they connect or how they grew up believing and what they believe now, what their goals are for spiritually, metaphysically, and what their challenges are physically that they need to work on. So those kind of things take time to talk about. But I will tell you this one thing about my readings. When I do readings for people, I usually write up a page or two before they arrive. So we start with that, and then I let them ask me questions after that.
Cool.
Yeah.
That is cool. So yeah, so I'll just processing that in my head. So Ines, Robbie is here. Good evening, Robbie.
Good evening. How are you doing?
He is back as a ninja. So this is this is Judi, this is Robbie. So nice. I don't know how much you've caught.
Nice
Do you
to
need me
meet
to
you.
carry on? Robert, do you need me to carry on a little bit more? Have you a question already?
I don't have a question. I don't have a question. I just got free and I had thought I'd come on to.
Come on,
Yes.
cool.
So on you go. Yeah.
Okay, not a problem, not a problem. So yeah, so we're talking about the channeling and the counselling, and you also you just mentioned there about so you tune into them and then you pick up some information about them first. Is that correct?
Yes.
So that's okay. So because I've had some interesting chats with channeling friends, and I seem to, being a Daoist, I seem to do it in a different way. So when you say you tune in, or when you tune into somebody, is that you have their name and have their picture, and you focus onto their frequency, onto their energy, or there are relatives or guides of theirs already waiting for you when you tune in. How does it work, if I may ask?
Okay. Well, for example, when somebody's coming for a reading, a lot of times I don't know what they look like. I may have an email from them, and we set up a time. And for instance, a client came one time. I believe this was last year or the year before, and I had some phrases written down, and I had a couple of names, and I said that there was a young man that needed to speak to her. And I knew her name, and she said she was familiar with my area where I lived. I mean, I really didn't know anything else about her. And I started reading the paper, and she, this happens all the time because I have notebooks filled with readings now after 11 years. So she grabbed the paper out of my hand. She said, this, I had written down her mother-in-law had passed away, and I had her name written down. And then I had messages from this young man about feeding the birds and please make the dogs quiet. I'm trying to sleep. And all of these things that he had said to her. And then some other things about colors and she was wearing these colors. And she took the paper out of my hand, and that happens a lot. And a lot of times they'll take their phone and take a picture of the paper, but that happens quite a bit. And I'll write down a name, and it won't even be a common name. And a lot of times I get right off validation. Sometimes people have emailed me from vacation and said, I met this person, you wrote their name down, and I didn't know who they were, and then now I've met them. So I don't try to question it. I really just try to go with the first impression. Sometimes I'm still writing things down while the person is coming down the driveway, and then I'll hand it to them or read it to them when they sit down. So
that's cool. That is cool. I sort of bring this up because I've sort of studied this gentleman himself. I mean, I've got to say, for me, the fact that you do healing and channeling, and you're a psychic medium, that sort of goes all together, apart from being very Daoist. Also always reminds me of the great Edgar Casey. Now, he's not, for a lot of people in England, he's not necessarily as well known as he is in America. But I mean, are you, if you don't mind me saying, are you a similar ilk? Is there a similar thing? But I mean, I know he went on to do lots of great, lots of predictions as well. But there was great big books that he'd written of medical, where somebody be in another room and he would be literally, he wouldn't know that person, you just know they're in the room and be picking up. I mean, is that similar to you? Is that a similar nature? Or?
Well, yeah, that does happen. That does happen a lot.
That's cool. That's cool.
Right.
Good. Well, yeah. Sorry. Continue. If there was a continue.
Oh, I was just going to say I am familiar with a lot of his work. I haven't read everything, but I have read a couple of the books and his life story and all of that too. So I am familiar with his,
channel, though, wasn't he?
with his work.
Say that again, Robbie.
He was a deep trance channel.
Yeah.
Casey,
Yes.
he went in a really deep trance. He was like, he lay on a couch, didn't he? And he just, it all came through him. So he was in a real altered state of perception, you know?
Yeah,
Right.
he did do very much deep trances.
Sorry, I never got to say much.
No. Sorry, so carry on, Rob. Oh, right. That meant he just had a call, so he's got off to do his work again. He's off to be the medium on the phone. So, yeah, I mean, the reason Edgar Casey interests me because David Wilcox. David Wilcox is a gentleman who, well, he does many things, but he's into sort of quantum physics, quantum healing. He is in the UFO circuit as well. But one of the biggest things is this uncanny resemblance he actually has with with Edgar Casey. And there is apparently there was this Edgar Casey always said he would reincarnate, and that there is this set of things that Edgar Casey was supposed to have known if he reincarnated, and I think this David Wilcock got most of them right. But when you look at him like at a similar age, they are almost identical. So when I think of Edgar Casey, I always think of David Wilcock. So sorry,
Right.
little tangent. But yeah, so yeah, so you've also, I mean, so you're a teacher as well. So is it that you actually teach this? You teach to be a psychic medium and channel?
Yes. I do work with people on opening up their abilities. In the past couple of years, I think I've taught maybe 15 classes on different subjects and how to raise your vibration, how to open up the third eye and those type of things. Yes, but it's up to the person to how much time they spend connecting and how they work on it. But yes.
Yeah, I mean, see, like yeah, I should be. Well, actually, I was going to say I should be Chinese, and I have had, when I smile, apparently I look quite Oriental because people have thought I am almost Chinese. But I always come from this Eastern viewpoint, and the Eastern viewpoint is very much that all skills, whether they're physical, whether they're mental, emotional, whether they're spiritual, all skills need practice and need exercise, well, energy to create that. So
Yes.
have you so with the Daoist like shaman, was the dragon dog shaman, and the other versions of that is Shun Chi Shen, which is basically means flowing energy spirits, which is like predates Reiki, but it's this concept of you need to build up power. It's and with the original Japanese Reiki was the same, is that it's not just this connection of drawing energy in and channeling it through, but by doing the exercises, the qigongs or qigongs, you actually increase your ability you expand your ability as a channel, or you increase your ability as a channel, and you allow the energy to flow better. I mean, are there techniques or exercises that you do yourself, or you teach your students to do?
Yes. What I try to do on a daily basis, is when I am connecting, I'm concentrating on DNA activation. I'm concentrating on light and filling up the chakras and making sure that I have a solid energy field with me. I can feel it around me. I can feel it coming in. And I guess it's become such a part of me now. I know when I'm feeling low, or, you know, if I've done too much that day, I've sat with someone for a very long time, I need to fill that back up and I need to concentrate. And that's when I will stop. And actually, I will put out my hands and I will do a short meditation if I need to, like I'm replenishing. And I tell people that all the time on using those techniques. And I do love to listen to frequency, sound, and tone. You know, I have a lot of meditations that I've downloaded that are really helpful for that. Music. And I'm out in nature a lot. I'm around water and those type of things. So all of those things help. Even the foods that I know are going to help my channels stay clear. So yeah, all of those things. And it really is on a daily basis. You have to be conscious.
Yeah. Again, it's not like I say, here I go again. It's very much a Daoist thing. Is this daily? It's all about balance, but it's daily balance. You know, it's
Yes.
what the Chinese actually call, what the West turned into the terminology or the saying water torture, actually was originally water technique. And water technique is drip, 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 a little bit every single day, and you create a lake, and a little bit more, and you'll break the dam. So it's that increase of the more you practice, the more you increase. And again, it's this weird thing, you know, when we're children, or when we go to school and we spend so much time at school, and then we have this weird switch off where we suddenly decide once we leave school, we're never going to learn again. And it's interesting that, you know, you should never stop learning, because Taoistically, they actually talk about, you know, being like a child, always be like a child, play, because playing is the best form of learning. Is that, you know, when you're playing, or
Yes.
you know, when you're making it fun, therefore, and so it's interesting. There are a few psychic mediums I know who do, like, you know, they talk about, you know, playing with the energy and interacting with the energy, but making it in a fun way. I suppose also because, quite simply, there's so many people out there who live in fear, and our society loves to focus on the fear. And is that the universe is actually about abundance, and the universe is about interaction and play, rather than actually segregation and fear. So, you know, it's nice to hear, you know, somebody who's not one of my students, and who's not a Taoist, well, not Eastern Taoist anyway, who's, you know, talking about, daily, a daily connection, practicing daily and allowing it to happen daily. And also you got me very excited because you mentioned DNA. It's very cool to hear somebody talk about the DNA strands as well. So I mean, is that something you originally picked up, taught, or was taught, or did that come naturally, or was it encouraged either spiritually or otherwise? How did that come about with the and sort of delve a little bit more what you mean by energizing your DNA or enhancing your DNA?
Okay, that's a good question. I'm glad you asked. Well, it was about 11 years ago, and when I decided that I really wanted to have a breakthrough, again, psychically, and reconnect the way I had remembered being able to do that, like you said, as a child, okay? And the woman that I went to see really gave me the confidence that I was going to find, you will love this, my way. and that there wasn't anything that she could do but tell me that the connection was so strong and that I had really been doing it all my life. And I knew that, but I had to find my own unique way to connect again stronger. So when I got back home, I discovered somebody had sent me a DNA activation CD that this same woman had made. And I started listening to it every night. DNA activation, love, healing, peace. It was incredible because the more I listened, the more heightened my energy became. And then I learned more about her, of course, and her story. So once I felt that, and I knew I was going to be able to connect in the way she said, I didn't want to let go of that energy. So that's how that began. And then I had to learn more about it. I really didn't know. I had to study more about it. But I had studied some on energy healing, of course, and psychic connection and all of that for a few years before that. And I had already taken all kinds of steps to change my diet and the things I was eating and my thought process, because I had read the Celestine prophecy before that, you see. So that was part of my journey. Kind of like, you can't change everything at once. You have to take these steps. And that was my journey. And that DNA activation, that really, the energy just went off the charts then. So I'm glad you you asked about that.
Well, I love there are, well, there's this is the way of Judi Lynch, not the way of Sifu Boggie. But there is great things about, like, DNA. There's a great meditation that I sort of actually sort of came across, meditated upon with DNA. And DNA itself, the I Ching, I don't have a book close to hand. The I Ching is like the Chinese tarot, which is lines. It's straight lines and unbroken lines. And there is the I Ching. There are 64 of them. There are 64 of these 6 lines, and they can either be a whole straight line or a broken line. I can quickly do one, but and in the I Ching, what was spookily found round about 15 years ago is that they found 3. So it's sort of like that. So you either have straight lines or broken lines, which is the I Ching. Now each one of these, in one sense, is a reading. It's like a tarot card in that sense, where it has information. But with the I Ching, a bit like in Daoism, nothing is truly good and nothing is truly bad. There is no right or wrong path. There's only things that will be more There's only things that would be more preferable for you or less preferable. So it guides you, it points you in a way. It doesn't sort of hide, oh, this is terrible, or you're going to meet a knight in shining armor with a packet of crisps or something. That's one side of the I Ching. And then it actually gives information, detailed strategy as well. But one of the other things they found when they started doing the codon, doing the DNA pieces, the codon pieces, they found there were 64 of them, 64 codons to the human DNA structure, and the markings that they came up for the codons are just like these lines, these broken and unbroken lines. And there was an eerie eerie similarity between the 64 codons of the DNA and the 64 I Ching that are marked up or written about the I Ching, meaning the little book. And so so there's this great connection that the Daoists, the ancient Chinese, which then became the Daoists, possibly had even come up with the DNA structure thousands of years before we'd even figured it out. So that's that is obviously very cool. and
It is.
and yeah, so this focus on the healing, that's I actually lost my track. There was something else I was going to ask you as well on that, but yes, so no, so yeah, so you. Yeah, so this person sort of helped you on your way, but it was that your way that you already had. You just had to reveal it to yourself, which is
Yes,
very cool.
absolutely. Right. That's right.
Okay. So you are also an author. Have you? How? I mean, I actually haven't looked at actual books. So please forgive me. But how many have you written, and what are they about?
I've written 2 books. The first one is called Friends with Lights, and it does describe my breakthrough 11 years ago, and when I started channeling the messages, when I started writing things down for people and delivering messages and healing sessions and all of that. So it's kind of the documentation of what happened. And then there's stories of some of the people that I worked with. The other book is Conscious Ascension, and a lot of the content of that book are articles that I published in Om Times magazine. Through the years, I've been writing for them since 2009. So I put a lot of my articles in there, and then I put some stories in there from people that I've worked with, and then some testimonies from people or reviews about what they experienced through our energy experience with readings and healing sessions. And that's basically what both of them are about. I'm working on a third one. It may not be done until next year, but I've started on it. But I'm still writing for the magazine. Every month I write a new article and
Cool.
put that out there.
Yeah, so on magazine for anybody who hasn't seen it. It's a very cool magazine. It's been going for many years, hasn't it?
Yeah, since 2009. Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, good time. And so, can I ask, what is your third book about?
I think the third book, I think it's going to include more about some of the light worker messages that I've channeled, even from the beginning, and some more stories with some people, and then some of the insight that I've gained on working with guides and loved ones and ascended masters, those kinds of things. But also I want it to be inspirational. I want it to have information there for people on, like we were talking about, what I've included in my classes on how they strengthen their connections, heighten the frequency, and use what I've learned too, and what the people around me have learned about fear and anxiety and how to work on those things spiritually, and the connections they can make that can really help with all of that. So I guess I want to include a lot of things there, but I want it to be helpful and inspirational. So.
Well, yeah, that's a good thing. That is a good thing. Yeah. So I mean, so with the ascended masters, like coming through, do they come through directly? As in, does that person how does it work? Actually, let's change the question slightly. So when you are channeling, do you actually see these? Do you see it inside your head? Do you see these people, or see it in this reality? Is it just in your mind? How does it work for you, if I may ask?
Okay. No, I don't see with my eyes, although I have seen energy and I have seen imprints and I've seen outlines. But what I would describe this to you as, and this is really how I learned from the beginning, is I can have my eyes closed and even have my hands out to channel energy. I can feel their energy. And I can feel it surrounding us, and I can hear what they are telling me in their assistance and who they may be. And how I would describe that is, when I talk about ascended masters and those loved ones that come in to help us, I have received descriptions that I could see in my third eye of that soul that was with us. And for example, I went to a very beautiful place in North Carolina that was a retreat, and I sat down on the hammock, and all of a sudden I could hear the Native American shaman who used to live there talking and telling me and showing me, well, the river right here is where we held our ceremonies. I could feel him holding my hand, just as if he were really there. And it was amazing. It was, and then I was surrounded by his friends, and it was just such a feeling of love and bliss, and it's hard to describe. The other person, you know, walks up by you and they can feel it too. And I met several people there on that retreat that they just didn't even want to leave because they could feel these souls with them. So I don't see them standing there with my physical eyes, but I've heard them tell me who they are, and just felt the love and energy. That's the best way I can describe it.
That's cool. Yeah, because I mean, it's always interesting, because I would say I'm not psychic. Certain of my friends disagree with me, because, like, say, or with healing, when I do healing, I can look at the person, and then I sort of take a picture with that mind, and then I can look away, and the image in my mind that I've sort of like photographed, I will then see their chakras and their auras and the meridians and the energy flowing through, and I can do that with ley lines as well. So, you know, is that I see it internally, but I don't see it with my eyes, but I see it in here. You know, once I have that image in here, I see it in there. And I've done some really, it's cool. It's cool. And I've done some very cool things with, we have, obviously, England, we have Salisbury Plains, the Great Salisbury Plains and the Great Stonehenge. And I have, with a copper bracelet and a crystal in a hand, and then I've walked around the Stonehenge on the outer, seeing and feeling the energy channels and going, right, okay, put your hand in now, and somebody putting their hand, you know, you almost burnt my hand off. And so, don't blame me, blame the energy. Don't blame me, it's not my fault. But it's very cool to do. And then there were places, getting back to China, surprise in China there is a American writer about medical stuff called Greg Braden, and Greg Braden has done this very cool video of one of the places in China where you see these three Chinese doctors. They're actually barefoot doctors, but they like white coats. The Chinese doctors, they do like their white coats, but they're in China, and they got this woman who's got a tumor. And I think it was a cancerous tumor in her lung, and they've got the scan of it. They're scanning it. They've got one live and one photograph, and they do this thing. They chant this saying, but what they're saying is wasa wa, and sa wasa, and wasa and sa means already happened. It's already happened, and what they're doing is that they're focusing, you know, like a law of attraction, you know, they're actually focusing on that the tumor has already gone, and so it's already happened, it's already gone. They already see it as already disappearing, and literally that tumor's growth, and they've done it on many different hundreds of people, that tumor's growth disappears literally within your eyes. Now, what Greg doesn't say as much was that place where they were doing it, that had been used by many different shaman and Daoists for literally thousands of years, where they would go there and do their qigong, their energy exercises. So there was loads of energy there, loads of high vibrational, and all these great qigong masters had been there for like I say, thousands of years there. And also the fact that there's great, almost like Stonehenge, there's a great vortex right there. So they're using all this, you know, the whole point of, and this is an interesting thing I find is sort of, we've sort of hinted or talked about in a way, is that in the past people think, oh, you know, you're psychic, oh, you must be special because you can do all this stuff. But you obviously encouraging people, and I always try to encourage people that they, you know, it's a little bit like writing. These skills are inherent. You know, everybody has them. You have this ability, but
Yes.
especially when you're in an area that there is abundance of energy, it's a little bit like, you know, it's a little bit like having a light bulb. And if your battery's only this big, the light bulb will only glow so much. But if your battery's the size of New York, your light bulb could light up like the sun, because the amount of power that you could send with a light bulb. Thank you.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good way to look at it. Yes.
Yeah, it's
yes,
yours.
that's it.
You have it. It's yours. So, but yeah, it's this thing of energy, and that's what. I like it when people, you know, we all have these abilities, and through practice, you know, like anybody can technically, however bad you think you are singing, you know, you can learn to sing. You might not have a great range of tones, but you can always learn to do something, or you can learn to juggle. You may not be the best juggler in the world, but you can always learn. And that's this thing, even with these abilities, with channeling and healing and psychic mediums, is that everybody has this innate ability, but it's firstly is that practice, and then the sneaky Daoist ninja trick is go somewhere where there's a lot of energy. New York, battery the size of New York. Go somewhere where they've got a battery the size of New York, and you'll increase your ability. So whatever level you are, you'll actually get better. So, and this was the trick I used to, you know, in essence, was sort of showing that energy in Stonehenge and different places all over the world, that energy is there, and
yes,
and it's just a case of tapping into that energy once you're aware of it, which is really cool.
yes, absolutely. That's it.
Indeed, cool. Okay, so I mean, right, is there anything else that you'd like to talk about? We may possibly start to wrap up, but before we do, is there anything else you'd like to? Is there anything I haven't asked you yet, or is there anything you'd like to talk about?
I really enjoyed it. I think we've covered so much just in this short time. I've enjoyed talking to you, and I've learned a lot myself.
Yeah, I can't help myself. I always open up my mouth and loads of stuff comes out. Normally, there's other co-hosts to shut me up, but I've enjoyed it. It's been great. It's been a great pleasure. I've very much enjoyed it. So
Me too.
yeah. So
Yes.
I mean, yeah. So thank you very much, Judi. Thank you very much for coming onto the show. We've had a few people at the moment, but what tends to happen, most of my listeners are American or Australian, so they tend to, in about 6 hours, they'll start trickling in and they will start listening to the show. So I mean, thank you so.
That's wonderful. Yes. Thank you, and you're welcome. You're welcome, and I will be sharing it also. Yes, thank you.
Well, maybe sometime in the future we can have you on again, and because I find especially when there's other co-hosts as well, the show always changes. Or when you've brought out your third book, we can talk about that one.
Sure.
So yeah, that would be lovely.
I would love to. Yes, I would love to. And I just want to thank you again for a wonderful time.
Oh, you're more than welcome. So don't go just yet, but we'll close off the show. So for those listening out there in podcast world and YouTube world, I hope you enjoyed it. It was a great show. I enjoyed. Thank you so much yet again for Judi for being on the show. Thank you for the flash in the pan of Robbie. Unfortunately, none of the others could be about this evening, but next week I'm not sure who the guest is at the moment. We're having a little bit of a flux. It may be an open hangout. We may just have an open hangout. I'll see if I can get a couple of the old codes to come on, and we'll just do a hangout chat. But for now, thank you so much to Judi. I've learned a great deal. I've enjoyed talking to you. Thank you so much. I hope you guys enjoyed it too. So for you guys, until next time, it's very much goodbye from Judi.
Goodbye. Thank you. Thank you so much.
It's good. It's goodbye from me, and it's goodbye from Robbie, who's already gone. But so take care. Bye for now. Love, Chi, and Chen from the Way of Conscious Mindfulness.